crisis that's probably going to happen sooner than later. And people will need to really figure out for themselves that it's not all about predictions and models. There's the living left to be done.
I think there were like bets on Kalshi or one of the poly market as to words he would say. And at the end of the call, he just literally went, he looked at it, he just read all the words, all the bets like cashed in for a bit of a joke.
I think it's one of the largest TAMs in the whole world. So I'm not quite, even the old legacy players will be fine for a long time.
I feel like it's an essential part of the portfolio in an increasingly dangerous world. Defense and energy, I suppose, because you've got to have energy independence and you've got to be able to, protect your way of life.
For an advertising-free version of this show, check out WallStreetWildlife.com.
Welcome to the Deep Investing Jungle with your hosts, Luke the Badger Hallard and Christoph the Monkey. This week, we are making our 2026 predictions. It's a big banger of an episode.
Badge, before we start predicting stuff, I need to check in with you and Santa's accounting. Based on the loot you received, naughty or nice?
Was I naughty or nice? I think I was nice. I was nice, yeah.
You fooled the old bugger? How'd you pull that off?
So we are going to have a bit of fun with this because we're going to a New Year party. And I can say it now because no one will hear it before we get there. I bought Katrina a Grinch outfit. And so she was the Grinch on Christmas Day, and she's going to be the Grinch at the New Year party with my other friends. And then we're going to do like a savage Santa we've organised at the friend's New Year party. So like everyone will be naughty at the party, I think.
Oh, that's fantastic. And true to your spirit, you know what Santa got Monkey?
What's that?
It turns out that the chief complaint charged against me was that I'm working way too hard and not having enough fun. And so Santa both, and this is to Monkey and Mrs. Monkey's household, delivered one, the largest Lego set of all time, I believe, the Star Wars Millennial Falcon.
I've seen
which
that.
Is
That's
that
a beast. Yeah.
Yes, it's that ginormous thing. So that's been happening. And I also got the Nintendo Switch 2, little mobile gaming device on which I believe you could play Donkey Kong, the latest Donkey Kong, whatever it is, where you smash things and make bananas. So Monkey's delighted.
That's awesome. That was definitely on your like Santa wish list, right? I remember you talking about that in December.
Yes, but anything to make me have more fun apparently I'm like the most boring, dreadful sapient to be around. So
yeah,
here's some more fun.
Here we are promoting our Vegas visit. Come hang out with these two really boring finance dudes.
All right, Bad. So yeah, we'll do some resolutions maybe in a future episode, but today is mostly about predictions. So
yeah, so let's just talk big picture about the predictions we want to make. We got a lot to get through, and you know what? This worried me a little bit because I'm still feeling like the extra couple of kilos around my waistline from all the frickin' drinking we did in episode 112, just like a week ago. So we got like 20 plus predictions. That is a lot of shot at the end of 2026.
And worse, I have even worse news for you, Badge. I feel less comfortable than ever making any predictions given what's happening now, and I'm experiencing this firsthand in the world of AI. We knew it back in 25 that things were going to change very, very quickly, but now things are changing like by the week. And so we both felt so silly looking back, as you were saying, to how could we have possibly thought X way back in December 25th. And I feel like we're about to make complete baboons out of ourselves sometime by even mid-March. I'd be like, what were we thinking?
Well, we did say in the wrap-up episode last week, like we inverted reality at least once in our 2025 predictions. So, maybe alpha is to be generated by doing the opposite of whatever we predict. I've definitely got that in my mind.
That's one strategy to all our patrons and all our YouTube channel listeners is take whatever we say, flip it a la reverse Jim Cramer, and you'll be gold. So, Badge, let's get going, huh?
Yeah, let's get going.
First prediction is based on this giant gorilla in the midst, AI. What specific industry is going to benefit the most by AI adoption in 26?
I've got one ticker in this space. We weren't predicting companies, but it is one that's been on my watch list for a little while. It's Symbotic, ticker SYM, and they're a warehouse automation company, and they build like warehouse automation systems for companies in the US and Canada using AI. Like, I don't know much about them. I've barely started my research on this one, but it could be an interesting name to watch. How about you? Which industry are you thinking is going to get hit or benefit the most from AI adoption?
Well, Badge, 2 quick additional tickers in your segue, because I've dabbled in this, RR, Rich Tech Robotics, and SERV, SERV. Add those two to your pile. I think you're looking in a good place. Yeah. For me, it's actually a straight shot. After doing my deep diligence about Lemonade, before I added it to Monkey's King of the Jungle portfolio, it became more obvious than ever to me that the one industry that is absolutely built to take advantage of AI, and that's insurance, because that's statistics and probabilities. And there you go. And obviously Lemonade is the company that saw this before anybody else. So that's basically my answer. Insurance companies taking advantage of that. So 2 tickers, Lemonade and OSCR, OSCR, which is healthcare insurance, same idea. One bracket point is I wanted to say real estate because that's the one I hope gets cracked, obviously with my tiny little baby semi-gambling position in the open door. But I think that's going to take more than a year.
I don't think I like open door, but the insurance ideas are interesting. It's kind of contrarian a little bit because the world kind of assumed that AI might kill insurance to some extent. Like maybe not like forward planning insurance companies like Lemonade. Like, what does it mean to be an insurer when you're like a Tesla and you've got a fleet of cars? Are they just going to self-insure and have like $1 billion in the bank to pay out any claims? Does that take insurance companies out of the loop? Like, who knows? Like the whole, at least car insurance is going to change dramatically, vehicle insurance.
Could be. Let's not. Yeah. I think it's one of the largest TAMs in the whole world. So I'm not quite, even the old legacy players will be fine for a long time. But anyway, for me, it's a straight indicator that I need more Lemonade based on this particular view. AI and insurance. All right.
Second prediction. Who will win the race for AI agents and how are they going to do it?
Well, Badge, I guess Monkey's going to be talking about all his portfolio holdings based on this show, which actually makes sense, right? Yep. Come to think of it, right? If what we're predicting are the companies that you would want to own based on your own understanding. So my clear straight shot here is UiPath, ticker PATH, because they are the ones that are now building on top of all the robotic agents that they had built for many years. And they're creating this meta orchestration layer that will help all the moving separate AI parts actually kind of synergize, which is an incredibly complex task. And I was listening to what's his name from Tesla, Karpathy, talking about highest level of coding now is like everybody needs to relearn what they thought they knew because the thing is shifting so fast. And so orchestration is Monkey's big word of the year, and UiPath is the one that's going to basically be the leader. And Monkey's betting big on this one. It's time. It's already, we saw in the last quarter, it's already starting to happen.
Nice. Very good. I'm going to lean on my own portfolio too for this one. I took this as like, who is going to have like the dominant platform for AI agents? Like, think of it like a virtual personal assistant that's just kind of helping you. It seems like a no-brainer. I hope this doesn't turn into like an anti-prediction alphabet, just with like the distribution they have with Android and like their monstrous base of first-party data from, well, they got like more than 2 billion user products. Like, how do they lose from there? Like, I'm obviously going to be eating like humble Christmas cake pie if they fail. But yeah, like I called this many years ago. I called it really specifically in May 2025 with a tweet I posted that did some numbers, and it seems to be playing out kind of as I expected.
Yes, you were so dead on with that. And I think we'll talk about this later in the predictions episode, but Monkey had his giant aha moment, and it was exactly using Google's AI platform. So I'm with you. I think you're making the right call. Okay. Which of the Magnificent Seven badge loses its position by 2030, and which company replaces it? Now, this is a little funny because how are we going to know who's right about this if it's 2030? So maybe we tweak it to 2020, loses its position by 2026. Same idea, right?
Apple, I reckon. I think they've definitely lost momentum with their push around like Apple Vision Pro and augmented reality. And maybe they can pull something out of their ass to save that. I think they're trying to follow Meta, the path Meta are forging with like their Ray-Bans. That seems to be the future of the stuff, and maybe they can make themselves relevant. But there's a ton of Apple phones out there. But like, I've got quite a few personal friends who have now converted from Apple to Android, and they all seem pretty happy.
Instinctively, I wanted to side with you too. And I'm a longtime Apple user. And also then as I got thinking about that, I think that the ecosystem stickiness part is probably, despite your anecdote, stronger than ever. And so I'm going to say, no, Apple's going to still tug it out. But the company that this is more maybe my prediction out of ignorance. The company that I really don't have a good feel for at the moment is Meta. They're taking a lot of shots, but the metaverse has been kind of quiet for a long time. Maybe that's because they're slowly progressing, or maybe because they've hit road bumps. I don't know. And it's, by the way, the lowest market cap, or one, I think, of the top 7. So it has the least to fall. But the other half of my answer to me is obvious. It's that Tesla will be the one to ascend and take their spot. If there's any whiff of what we think is coming, if any of that happens in 26, then that's the flip.
Such a weird, maybe the Mag 7 won't be a thing at the end of the year. Like, it was Bang, and then that Nav or something, and then it was something else. Or we've been calling it the Mag 7 for like a couple of years, but there'll probably be some new name that refers to like a different bunch of clocks. And we'll probably be a couple of new names in that collection that everyone's looking at. And I've got a decent idea as to who at least one of those will be. We'll come to that a bit later. So you're a Tesla fan. I've got a Tesla prediction for you here. What's your opinion on this one? Will Tesla robotaxis achieve operational coverage of all of Texas by the end of the year?
It's a funny question because I think it's kind of schizophrenic. Texas is the size of practically Europe, and most of Texas is a giant wasteland. So in that sense, no, because there's just too much to cover and not enough infrastructure. But if I don't get literal about it, and I kind of take the spirit of the question, I think Austin's definitely going to be rocking and rolling. Therefore, I imagine Dallas and Houston and San Antonio won't be too far away. So I kind of want to hedge my bets and say, in the spirit of innovation, Texas will be much further along at the end of 2026 than most people can imagine.
Yeah, that's good. I think that's good. And hopefully like Europe and the UK will be playing like fast follower. I think some of this stuff is happening in some Australian cities. But Texas, I'm just going to build on your prediction because I agree with you totally. If you take it literally, like, I think the answer is no. Like, it doesn't commercially, it cannot make sense to have like robo-taxis going off into the desert or whatever you have like out there. Because, you'll have all this, $100,000 of capex just like spending a day then coming back with no passenger. Does that make sense? But and there's probably, charging infrastructure and cleaning and everything else. I think that will be a like commercial constraint, not a regulatory constraint, not like a technological constraint. There'll be nothing stopping you taking like a robo-taxi from Austin to Houston, for example.
Yeah, I mean, we're still in 2025, and the thing that I didn't necessarily believe would happen, driverless cars in Austin, has already happened. So the greatest crossroads has been crossed. The weird thing, I don't know, Badge, my Tesla performance is from 2021, so I still have the version 3 hardware. And Tesla in that end has been awful quiet as far as how they're going to upgrade the computer to the latest software. But even driving on version 12, it's just shockingly good. So the people who are on 14, they're saying, yeah, it feels like a human driver. So if that's been solved, the logistics are going to fall by the wayside, probably quicker than we expect, again, because it's Texas and Musk's home base, and there's just so much money to be made.
That's cool. Are you thinking about, because you've got 2 Teslas, haven't you? And they're both like hardware 3? You thinking about upgrading one of those at some point?
Yeah, so they both, the older one, which was one of the first in Austin, that already was upgraded once to version 3. Yeah, but I asked actually a mobile repair guy who came a couple of weeks ago, like, hey, do you know anything about, within the next upgrade? And they're like, no word. So I wonder how much it's going to cost them.
All right. Most valuable company at year end. And let's just contextualize it. Let's contextualize it. Like, if you're not on the YouTubes, like just for context, today, which is like the 29th of December, the most valuable company in the world is Nvidia with about $3.4 trillion. Then Apple with $3 trillion. And if I run down the list, Alphabet, Microsoft, Amazon, Meta, Broadcom, Tesla, TSMC, and in 10th place, Saudi Aramco at $1.1 trillion. So that's our context.
Incorrect, Batch, not trillion. Those, I believe, are pounds. British pounds.
Pounds, you're right. Sorry, absolutely. There you go, British person. So much higher for dollars. Yeah.
Yeah, still. So yeah, Nvidia's at 4 something. I think Apple's also in the 4s. I think you and I are seeing eye to eye on this. And this goes back to, again, Monkey's recent experience with Google, this sort of life-changing light switch. I think from the pure, if I want to say Lynchian perspective, Badge, there's no company in this moment that I am engaged with more than Google in all of their products. And I underwent this major restructuring of my workflows and my browsers and all of this stuff, and I made it all Google. And if I'm doing that, I can't imagine like just like how wide this kind of revamp or turnover might be, on top of obviously everything else that they've built. So my money is on Google, Alphabet.
And I'm going to make a further prediction. I'd also agree, like incredible risk-based return, even though it's basically doubled from when I said it was going to double back in May. Like, I still think it's going to go on to greater and greater things. And I've got an extra like prediction I'll slip in just so you can do the shot at year end if I get it right. I think SpaceX is going to go public. Well, it's pretty known they're going to go public in 2026. And I think they're going to be in like the top 10 world's most valuable companies, like by year end.
Interesting. Okay. Bodes well for AST. So may that be true, Badge. Okay. Let's talk about monies and weird coins and gold. Bitcoin, gold, silver, the dollar, uranium. Which one of these storage or value, or which one of these, I don't know, commodities will be the play of 2026? The only context I want to mention is that I believe silver has over the last week or so reached all-time highs not seen since the 70s, seemingly overnight because of its connection to solar panels and as a material needed to for renewable energy. Or so I really didn't dig deep enough. But if you look at silver's chart, it's kind of going nuts. So, Badge, which of these precious metals or monies do you look back?
I kind of don't know. I struggle with this one. I'm going to take a wild stab and say uranium. And for context, uranium today is $81.40 per pound. That's like, I guess that's like uranium ore, I suppose. And my kind of vague rationale is AI data center growth, increasing need for energy, which, you go on about every week. And you even have to represent your energy battery headness. And I think we're seeing now legacy nuclear being turned back on, being kept on. Like Microsoft just did a deal with Constellation Energy, we've also been looking at recently, to restart 3 Mile Island, I think. And we've got small modular reactors in the background. We're not going to see them operational probably in the 2020s. That's probably a 2030 story. But maybe big tech might start inverted commas stockpiling uranium ore in readiness. They can't physically store it and enrich it themselves, but they might partner with somebody. So that, they'll be planning ahead for future demand. So maybe that drives up the price of uranium. What do you got?
Yeah, I like how you're thinking. Not obviously wrong.
I'm not a commodities guy. I got no idea.
Yeah. I'm sorry. I'm going back to the well. I'm going with Bitcoin, not least because we're in a 30-ish% correction, which is happened simultaneously as all the legislature stuff is about to be made law. All the big boys are now going to start piling in. And so it's a weird thing, when people start getting bearish, despite the history, to me that smells that's yelling opportunity. So nothing about the fundamental Bitcoin thesis has changed. I think the dollar is weakening, and I think Bitcoin has so many more interesting qualities to it than any of the precious metals that I'm going on a limb and also saying the silver thing is going to be very short-lived. And I'm not a commodities trader, but the pair between going long Bitcoin and short silver is probably going to work out. I'm curious how that ages.
You've someone who didn't age well. So I found this on Reddit for you today, just to give you a bit of a laugh. So you're predicting silver down, Bitcoin up. Or Robert Kiyosaki, famous for Rich Dad, Poor Dad, that dude, who I think has been broadly discredited as being someone who doesn't really know what they're talking about and might have even potentially been responsible for the real estate crash, the over-leverage in 2008. So he predicted that, your prediction, but he predicted it 11 months ago. And so he got that trade very wrong. He sold his silver, which has now gone parabolic, and he bought Bitcoin, and that's done pretty badly this year.
Well, let's hope Monkey isn't the next Kiyosaki. I don't particularly have much fondness for that fella.
Well, I've got a macro prediction for you here then. The 10-year yield, will it exceed 6%, let's say at any time in 2006?
Doesn't pass the muster for me, Badge. Government is cutting now. I mean, I don't know. I can't I get whiffs of the stagflation thing. I don't quite know how to, maybe that's why the markets have been so volatile over the last 2 months, because for every bit of good news, there's some bad news. The age of productivity is going to, I think, light the fire, and the GDP numbers are going to surprise to the upside, but then maybe employment starts suffering a little bit. I just don't see, if anything, maybe they pause and they don't cut as much, but going up greater than 6, I don't see it at all.
Yeah, I think I agree. Rates have come down a little bit, and they're going to continue to come down. I suppose I'm not a macro guy. I suppose there are, for reasons outside of the US's control, like the 10-year yield could ramp up. And if that happens, like it's not, but it could be doomsday, right? It could precipitate a lot of bad shit. Like, mortgage rates will go sky high up to, 8% plus if that happened. That's going to be like difficult for householders. Households are like over leveraged. The government debt is a big problem in the US, and that will become a much bigger problem if like the 10-year yield gets up to those kind of levels. So there's a lot of incentives to try and play this smart. I don't know. I suppose like the replacement of the Fed chair, this could be even though it's like a committee and that one individual doesn't have all the power, like that could be somewhat influential on where things go in the short term versus the long term.
Maybe this is me being a little too AI centric at the moment, Badge, but if I frame this for myself as a geopolitical arms race, meaning AI versus China, let alone the rest of the world, and this particular paradigm shift is enabling basically all these other industries to recalibrate and become even faster, better, stronger, let alone, like military applications and everything. I cannot foresee, and also what we know of Trump, who's like, give us more AI faster, deregulate everything. I find it hard to believe that with him about to announce a new Fed chair, that he's going to somehow make it harder for capital to flow when capital is so badly needed in this moment. So it would be, if it happens, probably it would be some kind of cataclysmic bad thing broke. And then we're all up Shit's Creek.
Okay, so next prediction, let's say that has kind of played out, right? So it's like the Ray Dalio doomsday. I know the guy's been predicting doomsday for most of the latter half of his career. Another kind of macro-y, dollar-y one. Does the dollar decline versus true safe haven? So for the purpose of the prediction, let's say gold. Does the dollar decline versus gold in like a Dalio style debt and currency squeeze?
I'm sorry to be, repeating myself again, Badge, broken record here, but I think 26 might be the year where the Bitcoin dollar starts separating in terms of, on the one hand, government keeps printing more US dollars. It so basically weakens it. I don't think there's going to be a massive crash or anything, but it's certainly, there's no incentive for it to be stronger. And meanwhile, the Bitcoin machine just becomes the obvious place for stores of value, and maybe even some of that gold stash that maybe some of that starts flowing to Bitcoin. So that's where I'm calling the divergence. The BTC US dollar ratio will be in BTC's favor.
Yeah, fair enough. I think the dollar is going to decline as well. I think there's some not clear takes on this. People say, the dollar is weak and that's like a bad thing. It's not necessarily. It just kind of depends on your situation. Like as a country, a weaker dollar actually is beneficial. Like it erodes the cost of servicing like the national debt. It makes your exports cheaper. So you're exporting more and then essentially importing less because your money buys less. So could be in the US's interests. And it's probably an unstated policy, but the dollar decline of the last 12 months or so was, probably to some extent engineered and planned and is now being executed. I don't know why they would be incentivized to turn that around. So yeah, I'm kind of with you. I think that the dollar will decline, but not for bad reasons, for essentially like long-term healthy reasons.
Yeah, though, don't ask Monkey about paying for his Sicilian architect in the US dollar euro ratio has all of a sudden made the Sicilian bungalow way more expensive. So poo on that. All right, Badge. We've got a sovereign debt crisis in the G7 in 26. Yay? No?
Yeah, probably no. It's a bit vague. What's crisis? Probably no. Like there'll be no currency defaults. I think things are probably going to worsen, let's say.
So we're talking about the US, Japan, Germany, France, UK, Italy, and Canada. And I'm going with AI saves the day for at least another year. Just no way these leaders in that allow some kind of major default. Maybe there'll be some bailouts or something like behind the scenes. I'm not particularly secure about regional banks, and I think there's some like overnight repo stuff happening. And, that's part of my Chainlink thesis, by the way, because like I don't think banks are particularly well run or transparent or above the line, but that's probably going to be small ripples at best.
Yeah. I don't think ALA is going to save the day in countries like Germany and France and Italy, particularly, unless you know something about Italy that I don't. But in the US and the UK and Canada and Japan, maybe AI could be a big factor in like increasing revenues, cutting costs.
Well, see, this is interesting. This is maybe something most people aren't talking about. The extent to which the world is AI centric. It's China and the US, and then is there an obvious third? Like, I should know the answer to that. But regardless, it feels to me like there's going to be an inflection point for pretty much all developed countries, where 25 was the building of the infrastructure. We have these bottlenecks, the energy, the data centers. But even despite that, all companies, I imagine in the world now, there's no company that's serious that has not already put in massive amounts of work to upgrading to AI agents. And so when I think of just I don't know.
Sorry, but the problem with some of these European countries is they're so busy legislating and like tying their own like hands behind their back. Are they going to get the benefits of these tools?
I was going to say that Germany, is known for its manufacturing and for its logistics. So them being a country of engineers and, doing things by the book, it seems like they're going to be the first to find a way to incorporate the robotics. And so even if that helps some warehouses be, I don't know, 10%, a little bit faster, a little bit leaner, I don't know, I'm making numbers up, but 10% faster, leaner in a country run by sort of automation and, that has at its core a lot of these manufacturing processes. I don't see how that doesn't either at minimum stabilize or re-accelerate some GDP growth.
Because, again, I'm not an expert on Germany, but they also have some very strict legislation around like employee rights. And it's very hard for companies to exit employees. And I'm not certain on this point, but they might be like a company's financially responsible for that employee for quite a long time after they stop being productive for the company. So like, unless these companies can solve like the labor, exiting the labor or, reusing the human labor as well as getting the efficiencies, that's going to be a challenge. But it's a good challenge. It means they're looking after their people, but maybe it's a challenge the US ignores. And then we do end up with like mass unemployment, and then like the US ends up in civil war or God knows what, right? There's a problem the US they're not facing into. Well, I say the US, like the rest of us too. Anyway,
okay, we shall see.
Yeah.
All right. I guess I'm a little more optimistic.
Yeah. Let's do a fun prediction. I think I got a bit gloomy there. So you're familiar with WallStreetBets, like what do they call it? I think their own tagline is like someone gave 4chan a Bloomberg terminal. I think that's like the tagline of WallStreetBets. It's like just wild craziness. And it's now like the biggest Reddit, actually, I think. I lurk there and post very occasionally. Anyway, from WallStreetBets, they had a poll recently, what will be the best stock in 2026? And here on screen are the top 40, just in case you're not on the YouTube, so I'll just read out a couple. So, bit self-serving, the Reddit WallStreetBets community, nearly 300 votes said Reddit itself, RDDT, would be the best stock in 2026. And then ASTS, Nebius, ONDS, Amazon, Poet, Oxy, Rocket Lab, you can work your way down the list. So some meme stocks and some great companies. Anyway, what's your pick? Best and worst performer from that Reddit list?
This was a tough one for me. The self-serving or the self-referential Reddit as number one seemed a little suspicious. But I went with my my recent darling in the King of the Jungle portfolio, UiPath. It's going to happen. To me, it's inevitable. The only question is whether there's enough accelerant in the tank for the complexity of what they're doing to show up in the revenues in 2026. I think if nothing else, maybe we'll see it in the last quarter of the year. So I'm willing to wait. So UiPath is my darling. In the worst, and you can't, I don't know, maybe I can't change my mind. Maybe I'm getting stodgy, but seeing what AI is starting to be capable of, I'm getting suspicious of any AI kind of centered platform, software platform, and that puts Duolingo straight in the crosshairs for me. Both Duolingo is like a company like Duolingo and Monday, for example. I think we've talked about this on our Patreon before. Even if the product is good, even if it's enjoyable, when people could start making their own stuff, I just don't see how that doesn't affect revenues sooner than later. So Duo's my worst performer of 26.
I like it. I like that you picked that one. I'd kind of forgotten about the fact that I used to have a put on Duolingo. I think I had to close it at a loss. I just kind of threw in the towel because the stock was still like running, and I really, I like the thing. I play with the app. I actually had I posted on X a few days ago, 1,111 day streak. But I kind of, I'm sat on the loo every morning, I'll like do a Duolingo minute, and then I'll go and do a little bit of an exercise on Google Translate. And there's like a practice kind of thing in Google Translate. It's really good. You can have like an open conversation. Feels much more human. Anyway, I didn't pick that, but I'm glad you did. From the WallStreetBets.
You know what? Just for the sake of completion, and I obviously probably will be very wrong about this. I'm going to toss Adobe into that same pile. It's the same feeling all three give me, like solid products, solid, huge valuations. Maybe not Monday isn't huge, but like nothing bad about the company per se. But if people or all these competitors find a way to do it themselves and or better somehow, then the pie just gets eaten up. So anyhow, go.
Like the capability gets commoditized. And then why would you pay a premium from a commodity when you can get the same thing from like 20 different apps? Yeah, I agree.
Yeah, I mean, even like, I know this is a little tangent, but now I use what's it called? Canva for all my digital needs. And it's just gotten so good and much more intuitive. Yeah, I know it's not embedded in large institutions, but I'm getting the same like Kodak feeling that the digital camera has already arrived. Film is on its way out, but maybe 26 is the year those kinds of companies explode.
Cool. It made me think a little bit like almost all of your entire portfolios in this list.
It's kind of, there's a lot of it, isn't there?
Yeah. You should get yourself on WallStreetBets, man. You can become an influencer.
Well, let me name it since you pointed that out. I have several in the top 10. ASTS number 2, ONDS at number 4, Poet. I have a call option for 27 on Poet at number 6. And okay, and number 13 is Planet Labs.
And you had some PayPal until recently.
Yes.
NVIDIA you had. Path is on that list. Open is on that list. Rivian you've spoken up about. Pretty sure you definitely own IREN, right? And you're a fan of AMD. So yeah, you got half the list.
Yeah, no, this is, yeah.
Anyway, my best and my worst, which is the purpose of this prediction. I'm also going to shoot from my own quiver. Best performer, Rocket Lab, even from the $37 billion valuation today. It's a shame I literally just prior to podcast and straight after podcast, I'm in the midst of buying my investment Christmas presents for all the kids. So I'm transferring some money into my cousin's kids' junior ISA accounts, and I'm buying them. In fact, I'm buying them all Mercado Libre this year. And Mercado Libre is kind of an expensive stock and you can't do fractional trading. So it's like, and I'm contributing like a chunk of money, but not quite enough to buy a Mercado Libre single share. It's like a $2,000 share. So, but luckily 2 years ago, I bought all the kids Rocket Lab, and that's like a 12x in the last 2 years. So I just sell a little bit of their Rocket Lab and we can buy some Mercado Libre and we can like, do a bit of diversification. So I'm loving it.
That's right. Uncle Badger is very welcome at the Christmas table, huh?
Indeed. So even from today, I'm having Rocket Lab as the best performer. Maybe a little bit of motivated predictioning, because I kind of hope that's the case for me because it's my biggest position. But let's see. The worst, I'm going to make the obvious play because you kind of called it out. I think Reddit is the worst performer. And I know nothing about, I use Reddit. Like I'm now in, so I got invited to some club of like, someone who's had like a Reddit post that had like 25,000 likes. So I'm like a super Redditor. But I don't know much about the financials of the company. And I think, like, I don't really know. I think it's mostly valued on, it doesn't really make any money. Like, it's valued on the data, selling that data. And it, now these days being used as like a source of AI training. Well, like maybe synthetic AI training data is going to kill that to some extent. And maybe things like Quark or X and other like social sources will just, not crush, but diminish the value of that proprietary data that Reddit has. So anyway, Reddit's underperform.
Makes sense. I just wouldn't sleep well at night, like thinking about data as a moat of some kind. And
I'll just go on record and say if I'm like inverted reality on any prediction, it's probably this one. It's really going to hurt because I don't own Reddit and I own a shit ton of Rocket Lab.
Right. Yeah. Okay. But this takes us naturally to most overhyped stocks. For me, this is more of a feeling thing than probably grounded in reality. But given all the talk about Novo Nordisk and the competition for the weight loss drugs, the GLP-1s, and talk about how, they're weirdly affecting all kinds of other biochemical processes, I have a sneaking suspicion that that's going to somehow blow up and not for the better. Maybe there'll be more trials and maybe more side effects that people weren't counting on. I'm just suspicious of a miracle drug, and the valuations for these things are still massive. And so I'm taking a cautious approach there versus something like psychedelics used for depression. We know already from clinical trials that there's a lot of really, really good data already, promising data in the books. All right. So whereas the market's really, pounding the drums on the GLP-1s, I'm looking at another huge sector, which has to do with mental health, about to roll into a lot of phase 3 data. And at least in the US, I think under Kennedy, he's quite pro these kinds of molecules. So
I don't know much about it. I've seen some stuff about psychedelics being like more widely accepted and like more trials leading to potentially, like places, clinics you can go to and then, have someone like babysit you while you go on like an 8-hour trip, and then it will solve all of your depression and issues. So yeah, if that stuff works, then great. Fantastic.
Yes.
Well, I hope GLP-1s
the ticker I was fishing for was MindMed, and I confused myself because I use Mind Maps all the time. So MindMed, MN, oh my God. I was just looking at it. Oh, anyway, whatever the ticker is, look up MindMed and you'll find it.
I'm almost lost the plot here, but we are talking about most overhyped stocks. Your anti GLP-1s, so like Novo Nordisk and Eli Lilly and all those guys. My most overhyped stocks, I think it'd be no surprise, are the quantum shitcos. I'm sorry to Simon Erickson and Chooch and anybody else who likes these companies. They're they're garbage and you won't be able to convince me otherwise. Like this stuff will come to market and like it will be relevant for certain kinds of processing one day, but it ain't going to be these little companies with like, sub $1 billion R&D budgets. It's going to be like IBM, Alphabet, or one of these guys. And it could probably get like the way to get, some true like quantum speed up. We probably haven't figured out that technology yet. It'll be something completely new, but it's these like, like the Bell Labs from decades ago, like the modern companies like that, the giants, that are going to figure this stuff out. Probably be AI that figures it out. And we'll use AI. And who's got the best AIs? Like the big guys. It ain't like the little nobody company.
Yeah, that's proper. Yeah, absolutely. Like the ones we shorted, Quantum Inc. and QUBT, I think former beverage company.
By puts underwater.
Right. Yeah, but to your point, I think the bigger point is you're right. Alphabet has all the capital it could possibly need, plus the world's most brilliant minds. You think they're going to be outcompeted by some proprietary little guy? No, it's just not going to happen. So, yes. I mean, the only hope some of these companies have, I guess, would be to be acquired. Yeah. If whatever they made in the garage is good enough to be acquired.
Maybe that one of them can pivot back to making coffee again.
Right. I mean, you don't win points for originality here, but I think this is as secure, overhyped. Although, maybe quick shout out to Palantir. Oddly, that conversation has died down because of the strength of the business. Yet the valuations are still so overstretched that if I were to kind of hedge my bet a little bit, I'd say, yeah, Palantir's still due for a correction.
Yeah, maybe. It's certainly real. People get real value out of it. But it's like, probably it's kind to say that it's fully valued. Like, 50 years of growth already built into the valuation today. But doesn't mean they can't grow for 50 years. Justify it. So
the next one is how to position our portfolios in rising geopolitical tensions. Only context I think I'd like to add is, when are there ever not rising geopolitical tensions? In fact, as of recently, the big hotspots in the world have seemed like they're making some progress towards resolutions. So, I don't know, 2026 might surprise us to the upside in terms of some peacekeeping outcomes. But that said, Badge, given that war and humans go hand in hand, what do you like?
I feel like it's an essential part of the portfolio in an increasingly dangerous world. Defense and energy, I suppose. Because you've got to have energy independence and you've got to be able to, protect your way of life. If I had to give like a ticker, or at least like a company for each of these, I do really like Anduril, and I don't think it's going to be possible to buy it in private markets. And I feel a bit lucky actually, because I follow Palmer Luckey on X, like the founder, CEO of Anduril. And in the last couple of weeks, like he's quite a loud character. He's fun to follow. And he's like really calling out certain folk who are trying to purport to be selling. I think I mentioned this previous podcast, but they were saying they were access to Anduril stock and they were selling it in the private markets. And Lucky was like, no, you don't. Like, I'm going to block any transaction. So maybe I feel lucky that I didn't get a piece, because maybe I was going to end up in like a dubious special purpose vehicle that didn't really own Anduril stock. I would like to own. I'll probably have to wait until it's public. And then energy, I think I mentioned it a bit earlier on the pod. Constellation Energy. It's been on my watch list for a little bit. I haven't done too much foundational research on it, but essentially they're the largest operator of nuclear, like the big legacy, massive nuclear power plants in the US, with something like 22 gigawatt of installed capacity out of the country's total of 33 gigawatts, so like more than half. And I believe they've done a deal recently with Microsoft to turn back on the Crane Clean Energy Center, previously known as 3 Mile Island Unit 1, because Microsoft need that power to power their AI data centers.
Badge, I'm going with ONDS. I think number 4 right now in the King of the Jungle portfolio. This is a new addition after doing lots of DD, and what I found just blew me away. Back to this word of the year for me, orchestration. They are on the outside perceived of as a drone company. That's the surface level take. Really, through mergers and acquisitions, they've cobbled together all the needed pieces really to run what they call system of systems. So it's like orchestrating all these moving parts, which do have drones at the center, but they're also upgrading, for example, the U.S. railroad network structure. And so if you think of all the ways that drones as a weapon of attack during war and on the front lines come into play, you also then have to start thinking of what happens at large stadium events and at airports, like one rogue drone and bad things happen. And so this is the company that is solving all major defense points in one place, not one particular, say, robot maker, but if you need this kind of help, that's who you go to talk to, and then they will help you figure out which particular piece you need. And so to me, it's kind of a little bit of a no-brainer, honestly. But you won't get that level of conviction, I think, until you see that the drone hardware piece is not exactly what they're selling. It is, but indirectly.
I definitely think you're onto something with drones. Like the US has just banned DJI, like the Chinese drone manufacturer. Like this is certainly on the radar for like national defense purposes. All right, let's do a mergers and acquisitions M&A prediction. So what'll be the biggest or most newsworthy M&A for 2026?
Well, Badge, originally I came across this question. I thought it was good to ask because I was following the ASTS and I came across the possibility of their connection with Amazon and Bezos, and that, why wouldn't Amazon want to swallow up ASTS? And I think that's actually, it would really depend on the willingness of AST to sell themselves probably at a lower premium than they will be worth in the future if all things go well. But that's kind of maybe more mythical kind of M&A. I think the real M&A action in 2026 will be in the biotech sector because the valuations are so stinking low after 4 years of basically nothing. And we already see this unfolding end of 25, cheap companies being swooped up. And so I'm going for, I'm kind of going to go with 2. One, my baby Relay Therapeutics, I think could be swooped up, especially if their cash position gets a little dicey and management decides to say, okay, screw it, we're going to go the safe route. And also, I'll say Procept Biotics, the robot, the prostate cancer robotics company we talked about when we talked about to the robotic surgeon. I think that gets acquired sometime in 26.
Cool. Nice one. Our guest from that episode, Professor PS, who I had lunch with subsequent to recording, and he's like one of the world's foremost robotic surgeons, was a big fan of Procept Biotics. And if he's listening, I think he may even have now bought it for his own portfolio. I think he was thinking about getting started. My M&A pick, I'm going to be a bit boring here. Like I know I've got one in my own portfolio, CyberArk, which is about to be acquired by Palo Alto Networks, which I also own. That's kind of old news. There is going to be more consolidation in cybersecurity. There's still hundreds of companies out there who have interesting capabilities, but they're going to get gobbled up by like the few winners. But that's not really like national headline stuff. I'm going to be a bit boring and stick to my last year prediction because you gave it a shout out in episode 112. And I think we weren't that drunk. Like we were still making sense at that point in the conversation. So I'm going to say Lyft, the Uber competitor in North America. I'm going to say they get acquired by one of the operators, let's say like Google or Tesla.
That makes sense. That makes sense. Good. Cool. Badge. Moving on.
Yeah.
This is a good
personal.
one.
Let's make it personal. Yeah.
Which portfolio holding will give us the largest gains in 26?
I actually think it's probably going to be one of yours because you own, like, just objectively, the average market cap of your portfolio is much, much lower than my own or than the community portfolio. So if I look across those like 3 buckets, like I kind of, for you, I hope it's EOS. Done incredibly well for you. I know it's had a bit of a like descent in the last few months. And I'm glad, I think you told us a few episodes ago, you had diversified a bit out of EOS. So that might have protected, like locked in some of your gains, hopefully. Yeah, based on market cap, probably EOS. Even though I like Rocket Lab in my own portfolio, I suppose maybe just to get a word in for my own portfolio, I think if you want like my best like risk-based return option today, probably not going to be like a 10 bagger. Well, it certainly won't be a 10 bagger, but risk-based return is probably Mercado Libre. But I'll go with EOS. I'm voting Team Monkey.
Okay. Yeah. On EOS, I don't think that's a bad call. Whether you're right, I think will depend on how willing the market is going to pull forward 27 earnings. Because in 26, what we're going to see is the factory expansion and the proof that there's both the demand and that they have the scaling is just a matter of cut and pasting. And then once that's in hand, then it's copy and paste times 4, 8, whatever. And the market being 1 year out in general might really, if all things are not blowing up, and if things are going well, then the forward multiple might get quite extended, and that would make it quite the winner.
I mean, I would just say, just to contextualize it, like I do not own any EOS apart from the option you made me buy when I lost a bet, and I don't have any plans to buy it. I'm just kind of saying it as a vote for Team Monkey and like mostly justified by it being one of the smallest market caps, and so therefore certainly more opportunity to multi-bagger. And I do trust you. You've proven that you do actually know what you're talking about.
It took us 3 years of doing our show together. Oh my goodness, that's great. Same mindset, Badge, but it was easy for me to overlook when thinking about this. I'm going with Coherus. My old pal Coherus, because it's at 100 million something market cap. And this is the year where the data is really going to, fingers crossed, come in. That basically demonstrates that a couple of the assets they hold are the leading edge next cancer molecules that will be needed. And so to be bought out even for something as paltry as 1 billion, that's a 10x right there. And so things took a little longer than expected, but 26 is the year that I think Coherus finally makes good with a whopping return.
I'm pushing my January 2026 option. Looks like it's like not looking very pretty.
No, you don't want to know how many of those I have.
Yeah.
You don't want to know.
Go on. All right. Well, let's, we did like the highest gain. So let's go to the other end, which across all of the community portfolio and our portfolios, which holding gets sold due to a broken thesis?
All right, I guess I'll go first. And this is sadly in one of the positions in Monkey's portfolio, Soluna Holdings. And our patrons know that I have a collection of 4, call it AI data center plays. 2 are the top dogs, Iron and Cypher. But I also decided to add 2 that are, I would call severe underdogs with tiny market caps. DGXX, DigiPower, and Soluna. And Soluna are the ones that are sort of the renewable energy experts. They're trying to take advantage of Texas's renewables to make the energy cheaper. And so I think they're at 150 million market cap, something like that. Why they might go bust is because it's one thing to be in the right sector, but the financing is proving to be way more complicated, given the potential issues with the debt and basically the margins on how it's not enough, I guess, to have the product. But if you're such a tiny market cap with dilution hanging over your head, it's quite a risky play. So if something's going to blow up in Monkey's portfolio, I think that it might be Soluna.
And kind of for the same reasons, like that I did for the best performer, I think the worst performer is probably going to be in your portfolio too. For kind of the same reasons, like you have a, predominantly highly volatile, quite speculative portfolio, but then you only need one or two to win for that strategy to make sense. And you have proven it made sense because you did like a 360% return last year. Like if I had to call out anything in my portfolio, it could be Novo Nordisk. Like they could just screw up execution again. But I'm going to go with one of yours. Am I cheating? Because broken thesis, like there is no freaking thesis. Genius Group, Genius Group, the Bitcoin ed tech learning, going to have Caribbean islands and start Bitcoin schools. What the F?
Well, okay. Hold on. Let me push back a little bit. It depends, because we have two theses here. I think you're right that based on what you just said, right? Just the future of tech and although yes, it sounds shady, but the more actually I think coming from the educational perspective, no, seriously, hear me out, Badge. The old education model is dying. And so whatever these guys are doing, maybe it's like a trick and horse and pony show, but at least they're trying to say, look, we're going to start educating people with being AI centric. And like, we're going to have these conferences and people are going to have the network effect thing. So it's like a blend of hospitality / at least do education differently. Who knows? I don't think it's as stupid as it might look like on the surface. But that's not even, I'm willing to give that to you. That's like a silly thesis to invest a company in. My thesis really is that they have all these lawsuits that could basically prove there've been illegal market manipulation, and all these lawsuits are now in advanced stages. And whatever payout they might get, if there's any justice at all in this world, which there might not be, then this company is going to, skyrocket. But so the thesis is the law will do what the law is supposed to do, and if that breaks, then too bad. On many levels.
Go on then. Well, tell us about another one of your holdings, which haven't done too well in the last few months. So Chainlink, will the Chainlink Interoperability Protocol, CCIP, settle a live tier 1 bank transaction? And you might have to explain what it actually means before you give your answer.
Sure. So let's start from the tokenization angle. We know for sure all the big boys are saying we want to tokenize, meaning bring onto blockchain technology all kinds of equity and assets. We want to make those represented as tokens that can easily then be traded and swapped using blockchains. CCIP is the, call it, meta layer invented and sold by Chainlink that connects all the different blockchain companies and chains together, literally Chainlink. And they're also the company that is basically providing, yet again, the word of Monkeys 2026, the orchestration layer that includes privacy and security and compute and development features all in one. And so the question here is, will one of the big banks actually perform a big settlement live with real money using Chainlink's technology? And my answer, Badge, is a very hesitant yes, because everything depends on the last piece of legal legislature to be passed, because that's where everybody's waiting on. Banks won't even begin doing any of this stuff until it's actually, the stakes are way too high. And the last whispers have been that the bill is actually written in the House or one of the chambers as of now, and that it's not outside of the realm of possibility that this bill will pass all of the legal hurdles within something like 3 to 4 months. If that happens, if we have now regulatory infrastructure in place in, call it, the first half of 26, then it remains, I think, reasonable to think that the back half, something will finally say, okay, we have everything we need, and we'll do a pilot or something for whatever minimal amount, and that it will happen.
Yeah. Okay. I suppose I'm going to kind of say the same thing. Like, I think, like, probably it's being done already, but there will be like proof of concept type stuff. But these are the banks we're talking about, and they're like slow and scared of adopting new technology if that introduces any kind of, reputational, operational, financial risk. So I don't think we're going to see any kind of material volumes transacted across, like, from like a regular transaction using cross-chain interoperability protocols to actually then like move money or do some kind of operation. So kind of, but only in like a toy box kind of thing.
Okay. All right. Let's see. I hope you're wrong.
Yeah. Should we talk about another one of our companies? ASTS. So this is a controversial one. The question on the prediction is, will ASTS facilitate a commercial telephone call before Starlink direct to cell?
Okay, Badge, I'm going to answer this in maybe not fun way. But to me, it'll get to the heart of this question. I am fully confident that AST has the far superior technology. There's no doubt about that. But whether there's going to be some hanky-panky fudging or changing of terms and some demos that both companies could claim do the job, and which one would be first, to that end, I think it's a towing cost. But in the end, all of that will be immaterial. In 2026, AST will be, obviously, if there's some legitimate chance of a company truly allowing normal people to have access to digital spaceband, AST will be first in a wholesome way.
Okay.
Because Starlink is just too far behind. It'll take years.
I'm definitively the other way on this. But just for clarity again, I own more ASTS than I own SpaceX, probably by a factor of 2 or 3. But definitively no. Because like the essence of this prediction is a commercial call. So not, as you said, not like a demo, like they're actually selling a service. So my understanding is, ASTS have 5 Block 1 satellites up there now operating, and they're smaller. And hopefully they've now got 1 Block 2 satellite, which is yet to unfold. It could be like in the next few weeks. But these things are like whizzing around the Earth, or like an orbit. And if you want to provide like a telephone call, you have to have like a satellite overhead for the duration of the phone call. Otherwise, you only have like, one satellite probably gives you like a 10-minute window every 2 hours. I don't know how often these things go around the Earth. So I think from a little bit of very quick research this morning, ASTS is forecasted to need 45 to 60 operational Block 2 satellites so they can have like continuous 24/7 coverage in the continental US. So that's like years out, right? 45 Block 2 satellites. They're certainly not in 2026. So before you attack that. Whereas SpaceX, Starlink, they've got 650 satellites up there now, which are direct to cell enabled. And I'm sure I agree, like they're probably inferior technology. There's 650 of them. So, and they work today with like 60 different commercial handsets. So they have direct to cell, but just really low bandwidth, like text messaging. So if they can just if they can increase the bandwidth, it might be a shitty phone call. You probably maybe to start with, it's like I think you can in certain locations now using T-Mobile, and then there's they have to upgrade the fleet, which they will be doing because hopefully they're going to have Starship, and they'll start putting like the next gen Starlinks up in the sky. Like they can just get this stuff into orbit faster. So I think they will be commercial first. That's my prediction.
Okay, so I think we could spend the whole episode on this, but from my end, I think there's a couple of linguistic fallacies here. Let me unpack. To your point, 650 is a larger number than what AST has, but more is not better. They're smaller and they're just way less capable. I could argue that sending out a lot of space debris is not great. But the second point, though, is like, what do you mean by working or commercial? Define your terms. And in this case, I'm legitimately thinking of this question as, when could a normal user with whatever phone they have do what they do on their phone normally, watch YouTube and text and call and, as though their signal was not at all different from what we have on the terrestrial plane.
Right.
And from that end, Starlink is not going to be able to do that faster than AST. And so commercial, that's why I'm saying commercial is a weird, depends what you mean by is, did you have sex with that woman?
We do. You live in the US, so it's like you pay your telecommunications provider. Like, at what point does either of them offer a service that you would be willing to pay like $10 or $20 a month for, because you get actual value out of it? I think Starlink will get there first. If you are like a
right. So that's what. Yeah. So that's what I mean. Like, we're defining our terms here differently, and that's why I think this is a messy question. Okay. I don't disagree. I think for the time being, Starlink's stuff is good enough, therefore people will pay. But once AST is out and it's a whole nother level, then okay. Moving on. Badge, this is kind of up your alley. Will Rocket Lab's Neutron rocket get to orbit in 26?
Yes, but probably not on the first attempt, which is why I've been trimming my Rocket Lab.
And I'm saying yes, because it seems like they're overdue. They've already been delayed for quite a bit, so I don't see why it would take longer than 2026, especially with the space economy as heating up as it is. So that's just a simple optimistic bet on Rocket Lab. In a totally different category, this is getting fun. Fortune 500 CEOs on earnings calls, Badge, will they start to integrate prediction market odds in what they talk about?
I think, definitively yes, because it's already happened, but it's kind of as a joke. Brian Armstrong, the Coinbase CEO, I think there were like bets on Kalshi or one of the Polymarket as to words he would say. And at the end of the call, he just literally went, he looked at it, he just read all the words, all the bets like cashed in for a bit of a joke. But like, I kind of don't mind the CEO citing prediction market odds. I do not like the CFO citing prediction market odds.
That's funny. Yeah, that's good. I'm going to take maybe the holistic view on this, is that I sincerely think prediction markets are the more accurate way to get information that's been proven. So we know this in politics. We actually, I don't think there's any debate about that. It's being, call it gambleized, or, there's a degenerate aspect to it. But in the more purely, I need information and I need it to be as solid as I could get it, this tool is going to be big. And it'd be weird if major companies don't take advantage of it. So I'm definitely yes in this.
It is interesting because, like, you're right. They do, like, the wisdom of crowds. They do encapsulate a lot of that stuff. Whether it's, it's a bit odd to be cited specifically as a data point on earnings calls, because what's the, it'd be like, it's sort of like someone saying, like WallStreetBets likes our company. I suppose some CEOs might say that. Probably not the credible ones. But at some point.
The one difference, though, and it's not small, is that prediction markets have money behind them. So it's more than wisdom of the crowds, right? It's also like a filtering mechanism that says each data point here has value that you can't get in something like a Reddit forum.
Well, it's a twist on the prediction, and it's not 2026, but like maybe one day companies will have like their prediction market bets on the balance sheet, which sort of it's kind of a form of hedging or debt, you know?
I mean, it's investing in 2026 is already kind of interesting. Some companies are allowing questions from retail that they then include on the earnings call. So there's already a portal into that world, like the walls. I'm talking about this a lot, and you'll hear this a lot from our Wall Street Wildlife podcast and Patreon in 26. This feeling that investing has undergone a major paradigm shift where everybody, if they find the right tools, can now work at a way higher level than ever before. And so I think that kind of democratization of access and retail and institutions and analysts, and you throw in AI, and the swimming pool is getting a little more similar than ever. And so I think, prediction stuff is going to, the companies using retail's voices is going to only accelerate somehow.
Yeah, that's cool. I definitely buy that. All right, let's go rapid fire a little bit. So, will any state or states prioritize homes over data centers in terms of like energy availability?
Yeah, so this is a question. Data centers need all the power, but power demands increased electricity costs. People are going to be out there with their pitchforks saying, damn it, not in my backyard. I'm saying no. Despite that, I think the data center train just doesn't stop, and everybody knows it, and everyone's just going to have to suck it up.
Kind of feel like probably yes, but it will be like a political stunt. It won't be meaningful. I think come like the time when we're about to take a shot, I think I'll be able to find a news article that shows at least like one state governor saying that they did this. But whether it was real or not, I don't know. Yeah.
All right, Badge, tell me this. Will we have our first sort of biological premium paid that establishes a kind of, this thing you're looking at is verified to be human tier, and you'll have to pay more to access the old flesh and bone made by a meat suit tier as opposed to AI?
Yeah, I like this prediction. I think yes, definitely. And possibly, like maybe it'll be mandated. It might be like probably the other way around. It'll be mandated that you have to say like AI had a hand in creating this thing versus something that's like, maybe nothing will be purely human eventually. There'll be some like legal definition. So yeah, I think we will have a verified human tier.
Yeah, vinyl came back, so maybe humans will come back.
Cool. Did I say this on a recent pod? I caught a prediction or another podcast recently about the virtual Turing test. And I think the guy predicted that in 2026, you potentially will have like virtual colleagues, like lawyers and marketing people, and you will interoperate with them over Zoom, just by chatting with them on Zoom, and you won't be able to distinguish like the AIs from the real humans. And he's off with the timeline, but actually I think that's probably a legit prediction.
Badge, tell me this. A tokenized real estate title, like $100 million real estate on-chain deal. Does this happen?
Nah, gimmick. It may be, but it will be a gimmick. It won't be. I will say definitively, there will be no official like proof of title proven exclusively by something on a blockchain, rather than, title like property will be defined by whatever legacy institution the country has, the land registry in the UK.
And I'm going to ask me again in 27. So no for 26. As badly as I want this to happen, the real estate industry is just the last sort of frontier of tangled webs, and it's just too soon. But 27,
I've got a fun one for you here. Sort of leaning back into like the verified humans. Will there be a lawsuit holding accountable an AI agent, like crime by AI?
Absolutely. And I'm thinking, and this is bad, this is scary, the phishing scams that we're going to start seeing. I had to help my parents just a few days ago avoid one. they're gonna get really, really sophisticated, and at one point it's gonna lead to disaster, and it might be some teenagers, AI agent in their garage that went out and did bad things, and it's gonna be bad. There's gonna be prison terms, and as there ought to be, right? But unfortunately, there's gonna be a lot of victims first.
Yeah, it's a weird one, isn't it? Because I totally agree with you. But like, who do you hold accountable? Like, certainly these tools are going to be, like, this is today the new tool set of hackers and scammers, but they're using them now, like romance scams and things like that. Like, who do you blame? Like, the bad guys will always use like the bad guy tools. I'm going to come a bit more like above board, but also agree with you. There will be a lawsuit, might be a bit more like a proper lawsuit in a court. So I think that we have had a number of robo-taxi deaths, and I don't know the stats because I think they're probably covered up by, Waymo and Tesla and these companies, Uber, and the victims get paid off, or the victims' families get paid off if it's a fatality. Like, it's inevitable. I'm not saying, stop autonomous vehicles. It's inevitable, and it's better because less people will die overall. But unfortunately, people will die because that's just the nature of like cars that weigh, tons and they're on the streets. So I think we will see a civil case, probably not a criminal case, but a civil case brought against one of the operators in 2026, accusing them of like lax standards, and maybe it will turn into class action. I don't know. But we'll probably see something like that.
All right, Badge, enough bad news.
Before we move on, I got a fun little one that's probably only if you're on the YouTubes. Check out this little video for AI crime. It's a guy if you're not on the YouTubes, it's a guy in a motion capture suit, like doing some like kung fu, while they're recording for some movie or something, video game. And he accidentally he has the robot kick him in the nuts and he like collapses. But the most comical thing is like the robot collapses at the same time, like clutching its own groin because it's kind of kicked itself in the nuts. It's pretty cool.
All right, let's get to the real. Now we're near the end, and let's get to the most important predictions of 26. Does Badger finally come to his senses and divorce his reputation and his health away from Greg's sausage rolls? Does he finally come clean and just does the right thing, or not? Monkey's take is that he does. He finally realizes just what it is that he's done. He wakes up sometime in January and says, I cannot abide this egregiousness any longer, and he's out, and his portfolio starts to shine.
I wish that there was a Greg's branch in Las Vegas. I've just checked again. There is no official Greg's Bakery in Las Vegas. So I won't be able to bring you a Greg's sausage roll when we meet for our Patreon meetup in March. I will still be a Greg shareholder, I expect, at the end of this year. I don't eat the Greg stuff, though. Like, that's just like heart attack food. But I will still be a shareholder. I like my dividend gains.
Right. Let all the others have their heart attacks. I'm just going to collect the dividends. Oh, Badge. Okay. Maybe the most important question of this prediction episode is, what will be the most improbable Las Vegas Wall Street Wildlife #1 meetup outcome?
Even though you performed very well in the episode 112, very drunk poker quiz, I'm going to say the most improbable thing is that you win the poker tournament we have with our Patreons who join us.
And I'm going to say that despite the protests, our Patreon Barry will in fact be willing to sacrifice his marriage to make it to the meetup.
Oh, well, that guy's got an Italian wife. You know how fiery they can be.
Barry, don't let your pal monkey down on this one.
What happens in Vegas stays in Vegas. We definitely won't release it as a Patreon exclusive bonus episode. Should we sort of close it out with one like portfolio-y one? So it is an interesting one. This made me scratch my head a bit. Will our individual king of the jungle portfolio beat our individual, for me, it's my retirement portfolio. And I think I'm optimistic we're going to have a good year in 2026 with all the AI-ness and everything else and just declining interest rates. I think growth stocks are still going to continue their ascent. Even though it might be unsustainable, it's going to be even more unsustainable. So I think my king of the jungle portfolio is going to outperform my retirement portfolio. And I accept that it's by design because I'm trying to be a bit safer in the retirement portfolio.
And I'm wishing our Wall Street Wildlife portfolio all the successes. I'm wishing your portfolio badge a hearty comeback in 2026.
I didn't come back. I did 93% return. Come back, mother.
Badgers comeback tour from a measly whatever. But Monkey's going on a record here, folks, and saying that despite having egg on his face via his Chainlink investment, 2026 will be the year of Chainlink, and that alone, being Monkey's one of his top holdings, will propel Monkey's portfolios to all-time greats, smoking all competitors, throwing rotten banana peels behind him as he zooms way out ahead of everyone.
Awesome. Okay, good. Good luck with that.
And bonus question, bonus prediction. Will Badger read more than 2 books in 2026? This is the easiest hanging fruit out of this whole question set. No Badger will not read more than 2 books in all of 2026.
Like if you're allowing me, like Jack and Jill went to the market kind of books, then no problem. I read 2 books this month. I'm going to read 2 more books in January just to spite you.
All right, beasties. You heard it here first. I can't wait to see how poorly these age.
I like it. They were good. Like we had a ton. We went through a ton. Like we talked about a whole ton of predictions. I think we've probably got definitely some stinkers in there, but I think we've made some good predictions in there. And there was hopefully a ton of alpha you're going to get either by like following our prediction or inverting it. So, and it'd be fun to come back to these. Like I will publish these as standalone YouTube, like 10-minuters, and we'll see which one. We'll get people to vote on it on YouTube. See how many people like thumbs up or thumbs down for each of these predictions. Did you have a favorite prediction in there at all?
Favorite? You know what? Sorry, I'm going to take this a different direction just to close out the conversation. It's a question we prepped for, but didn't quite make it into the script. I was thinking about this idea of bottlenecks, and that 2025, what did we hear more than anything else is that power is the new bottleneck for AI, and that it's not GPUs and compute, hence the rise of all these data centers. But there was an obvious, bottleneck, choke point, where if you could solve that, everything else follows from it. I'm starting to get a feeling deep down, Badge, that because 26 will be the year in which basically AI gets into the hands of more and more people. I don't know if the masses exactly, but just it continues its spread. That the new bottleneck will be that old school capacity for humans to generally stay curious and imaginative and not outsource everything to the robots, and that we're going to feel a pinch. And it's going to be tied to some of these other predictions that amidst this sort of like narrowing of what people do, too much will be outsourced and mistakes will be made and AI deaths will happen, but something badish around what it means to be human, or maybe not badish. Let me rephrase that. There's going to be an existential crisis that's probably going to happen sooner than later, and people will need to really figure out for themselves that it's not all about predictions and models. There's the living left to be done. There's the messiness of living to be done. and that curiosity is going to need to try to put up a fight.
Yeah, I hope so. I hope so. You're right. Like we talked a week or two ago that we're thinking about like creating some tools for our Patreons around how to use AI productively. And like you should lean into these tools. Like they're an accelerator. I get so much done using this stuff every day. At any point, I've got like 20 open conversations with Gemini, which I dip into every day just to like explore topics more. Like don't step across the line into letting the AI form your opinions. It can inform your opinions, but like don't outsource your opinion to these tools, because suddenly, you're like the flesh mob, just like copy and pasting, and what useful purpose are you serving?
All right, Badge, let's see what happens. But we have, as a little preview, we do have some fun projects in the works for our Wall Street wildlife community. Monkey and Badger have been working on some things behind the scenes, so we look forward to parading those around when they're good and ready in a couple of weeks, months.
I think we can say Vegas is now like fully locked in. We not only have flights booked, both of us, like Christopher's booked some flights. We are definitively there. We got ourselves a penthouse suite at the Vidara, the Aria, pretty swish venue, and we'll be hosting a Wall Street Wildlife Patreon meetup kind of party in the suite. We'll be doing some due diligence together. We'll be drinking together. We'll be definitely playing poker together. We might try and see a show. We're going to kind of figure it out. So if you're interested in joining us for that, and the date is, are we saying it's the Friday into the Saturday?
Yeah, the weekend of March, Friday the 27th and 28th. Those are the dates you want to have circled on your calendar. Barry, get your flights now before ticket prices go up.
Very good. We didn't really mention them today, but I do want to give a shout out to one of our most important partners, Fiscal AI, like the essential stock research platform that Christoph and I use every day. It's my one-stop shop for research. Like tons, 20 years plus of financial data that I really like. Their company-specific segment data, things like Duolingo's daily active users and, Tesla revenues by country. You can't get this from the other platforms. Earnings call transcripts, ownership data, research report. It's pretty complete. If you use our link, fiscal.ai/wildlife, you get 2 free weeks of Fiscal Pro with no credit card needed, and you'll get a 15% discount if you upgrade. That's fiscal.ai/wildlife.
Are you ready to become a beast of an investor in 2026?
Your journey starts here.
A reminder that the people on this program may hold positions in the companies that are mentioned. Buying and selling stock carries financial risk, which could include loss of capital. The views in this program should not be taken as personalized advice. Before acting on any of the information provided, listeners are encouraged to consult a financial or tax professional.